I wanted to show you a couple of things. First of all, what you have here is a great example of why having body paragraph text really helps cut down on what you can present in the image, right? So I understand you mentioned in a comment that you're really trying to create that same user experience. And I do agree that your colors do have meaning, and they are explained down here in your reference tag, which I think is great, and that's fine. So having a more descriptive text is great, but an approach here is that really what you have is a list and a series of headings, or a heading and four headings and a series of lists that basically can be tagged the same way. Since you're tagging this all the way across the board, you're doing this manually, it'd be pretty easy to set this up. So what I've done is I've created an H1 here, although I realize over here, you really do have the H1 sitting here, right? So this would be the H2, this would be the H3, and then each one of these would be H4s. So actually we can go ahead and set that. So let's set this to cancel. I need that not to be highlighted over there. Properties, heading level 2. And then we're going to change this one, properties, and we can actually keep this open, heading level 3. You just need to make sure you hit tab to go to the next field, or put your cursor in the next field for this to stick. And then we're going to go that one, holding down control, selecting each one of these, and then we're going to change these to heading level 4s, and then we're going to move to the next field. That way it locks it, saves it in. If you just hit 4 and hit close, it'll go away, right? So now we have a proper structure, because over here we're going to have an H1, right? That is the top of your deal here. So this is your H1, your H2, 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 H2. Right? So that works out just fine. Now, in here, what I did was I set each of these up as a heading. So, first of all, your reference, I did leave your reference in here. It is a link, and it does actually go down here, right? There's no need to create another link to go back to the top, because if you put this in the right place in the tag tree, the very next heading is back at the top. Then you have H4, there's your first heading, and your list, right? Well, your list is a list of 2 items, and we want to be able to signify this guiding values, that these are guiding values, right? So how we can do that is by using a caption. So you put a caption tag in there, and then you give it actual text. You could do alt text to it. Either way, it acts the same. But guiding values is the actual text for the caption, or the thought of these 2 bullets. Right? So it'll read that way, and then it'll go to the next H4, then it'll read list 2 items, guiding values, and then integrity and respect. Matter of fact, let's turn on JAWS and we should be able to hear it.
JAWS for Windows. Pages from 2008. Pages from 2018 _19-AR _inside -pages _screen.pdf document. Page. Heading level 1 guiding values and strategic priorities left parent 1 right parent. Link left parent 1 right parent. The colors in the graphic include Brock's brand standards and those from the indigenous medicine wheel, the pride flag and the dish with 1 spoon. Wampum agreement flag. Heading level 2 strategic focus and space.
Okay, so you can see that it read the heading, it went down, and it read the footnote, and then it went back up to strategic priorities, right?
O for a transformational and accessible academic and university experience. Heading level 3.
We're over here in our heading level 3, and then if we just hit read from here.
Heading level 3. O for a transformational and accessible academic and university experience. List of 2 items guiding values, innovation and transdisciplinarity sustainable. Space.
So did you hear that? List 2 items, and then it read guiding values, and then it read the 2 list items. And it'll go through that same way. Let's just listen to the whole thing.
Sustainable. Accountable stewardship list. And heading level 3. Build research capacity across the university. List of 2 items guiding values, integrity and respect. The generation and mobilization of knowledge list. And heading level 3. Enhance the life and vitality of our local region and beyond. List of 2 items unique student experience, inclusivity, diversity, equity list and guiding values. Heading level 3. Foster a culture of inclusivity, accessibility, reconciliation and decolonization. List of 2 items guiding values, freedom of thought and expression coupled with academic responsibility, reconciliation and decolonization list. End.
Right? So there we have our basically presentation of what this is. Now, you don't need alt text for this, because you have the representation of the colors in this this footnote here, right? So you could, if you wanted to, you could go into that
Preview
reference. And let's turn off JAWS for a second here.
JAWS home. Pages from 2000.
So you could go into this reference here and you could, well, it does say the colors in this graphic include, right? So you could say, you could highlight this, copy it. We're going to copy that. And then we're going to give this reference properties. We have to have this unhighlighted to get to the properties. Properties, and then actual text. So we're going to say circular infographic, right? With, actually, it would be the colors in, well, so here's the hard part, right? So the same user experience, right? The same user experience would say, I shouldn't change the text because the text says what it says. But there's also a presentation of the graphic. And how do you explain to the user what this spatially kind of is, right? So let's go ahead and let's take a different approach. So let's go ahead and close that, not do alt text. Let us find a piece in our content pane. So right now, the tags tree really consists of the text only in this graphic, right? But we need a way to say there is a graphic. So we need to pick out a piece of this. So if we go to our content view, and we go, right now it's an untagged object. It doesn't have a tag. Now PDF UA says it's supposed to have a tag, so you're going to get PDF UA errors if you try to balance this against the PDF UA requirements. But if you're just doing WCAG, untagged content doesn't really matter. But we want to make this tagged content. So we want to do find content from. We want to go and do find. And then we want to find unmarked content, and then we hit find. And it's going to start cycling through all those. And why it matters to do it this way is because it's going to allow us to tag it as actual content. So we'll just do the white one instead because it's the first one. You just hit tag element, right? And then we're going to call this figure because it is a figure. And just so we know it, it's going to appear at the bottom of our tags tree, but we're just going to call this white bar just so we have a reference. Now we're going to hit close. Now, if we go back to our tags tree here, you'll see there's our figure and our white bar, right? So what we can do is above here, pick a spot. So here's our guiding values. There is our H2. So theoretically, you would put it in between the H2 and the first piece of our focusing priorities. I would probably put it there, right? And now you can go into here and type in circular infographic displaying values and displaying strategic focus and priorities on one axis and guiding values. Can't type today on the other axis. Text is described in the following 4 paragraphs, right? So that tells them what it is. We don't necessarily need to mention the color yet because that color is mentioned in the footnote below. So you're already giving them that on-page information. There's no need to put it into the alt text. So circular infographic displaying the strategic focus and priorities on one axis and the guiding values on the other axis. Text is described in the following 4 paragraphs, right? And then it starts walking through each of those paragraphs. That would come after the reference, right? So you have the H2, the reference, Then now we start into the figure, because the figure is the strategic priorities, right? So that is that heading there. So the figure is the overall, and then everything underneath here, all of these items are in essence a description of that figure. So that's how I would handle this, and it would give them an adequate and very robust user experience. It definitely is an assistive technology user focused approach. Definitely not just a tag it and forget it. And it's I don't know that it's easier than doing your object, putting a document at the end and having a long description. It definitely provides a more immersive experience doing it this way, because they're still in the document and they're not having to go to an additional page at the end of the document. But that's completely up to you. Again, alt text and graphics are really subjective, and it really just depends on what you want for a user experience. But I will tell you, the one thing you need to make sure of is that you test with a screen reader, because I will tell you the initial document, let's go back here and turn back on JAWS. So if we go to this
Guiding values and strategic focus and priorities, heading level 3. Offer a transformational and accessible academic and university experience, heading level 4. Space.
So you hear that, offering a transformational and accessible academic and university experience, heading level 4, right? Now it's only reading that clearly because
it's JAWS dialog.
Let's turn this off for a second.
Edit. Type in text.
And set the actual text to what I wanted it to say. Because if we take this out, and we hit close and save, and we turn JAWS back on. Now you would think
AV page view, pages from 2018 _19-AR space.
So you would think that because this is all one paragraph, it would actually read it together. But the problem is that when the person created it, they put line breaks in between to break these pieces of text for each line. Unfortunately, the Acrobat document is reading that, and so even though it looks right, when you try to read it with the screen reader, here's the experience you get.
Heading level 4 offer a heading level 4 transformational, heading level 4 and accessible, heading level 4 academic and heading level 4 university, heading level 4 experience list space.
So you hear that? It said heading level 4 offer a heading level 4 transformational. It read heading level 4 at each one of those because the person, when they created the document, used hard returns to separate each one of the lines. So the only way to fix that is to come in here and select the text, hit copy, and then if you go into Notepad,
star untitled dash notepad, edit, type in text.
I'll pull my Notepad over here.
Select it. Blank. Paste it from clipboard.
Paste this in. See how it's pasted with all these line breaks? That's why I know it's not reading as a paragraph, and why I know they created it with these extra hard returns.
Space end. Space end. Space end. E.
So what you have to do is
Select
copy
it.
all that.
Cut selection to clipboard.
Cut it out.
Pages from 2018.
Go back into this
Preview left H4 greater closed. To move through or expand item escape. Pages from 2018 underline.
Go back into
Preview left
this
H4 greater closed. To move through or expand item.
And then in
Paste
the
it from
actual
clipboard.
text, paste
Alternate
it
text colon edit.
in there.
Control A.
And then that will actually read it the way you want it to read without the hard returns. If you had access to the source, you could go back and edit this graphic so that it didn't have those hard returns. But this is one of those prime instances where sometimes the way we format and the things that we don't see, like hard returns or soft returns, they get put into the tags tree and get read and create a different user experience. Anyway, I hope this gave you some insight as to one possible method for being able to keep this as close to a same user experience as possible. Now, again, the other things I know you can't control, but the unique student experience definitely is a color contrast barrier because there's not enough color contrast in here between the gray and the white. And I can tell you that because
color contrast analyzer left parent CCA right parent.
Turn off JAWS.
List box. Quit JAWS dialog. Pages from 2000.
I've been doing this long enough, but here you can see that it fails. It's a 2.3 to 1. And this blue it passes for large text, but this is definitely not large text. So it would be a failure as well. I think all these other ones are all pretty well okay. I'm betting this one's okay. Yeah, it passes. And all the other ones pass just fine. Anyway, so I hope that helps you get an idea for what an alternative way to walk through a complex infographic could be. Thanks a lot.